Dr. Phil McGraw had been doing this for 30 years. 30 years of family conflicts, addiction interventions, custody battles, DNA reveals. He'd seen people discover siblings they never knew existed. Watched parents learn their children weren't biologically theirs. Witnessed the moment someone's entire understanding of their identity shattered on live television. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for what Rebecca was about to say. She walked onto the stage like someone carrying a secret so heavy it had reshaped her posture. 42 years old. Neat appearance. Controlled. The kind of control that comes from years of practice. From learning how to look normal when everything inside is screaming. She sat down carefully. Placed her purse beside the chair. Folded her hands in her lap. The audience applauded. Standard greeting. Rebecca managed a small smile. Polite. Practiced. The smile of someone who'd learned to perform normalcy. Dr. Phil waited for the applause to fade. "Rebecca," he said, his voice steady and direct. "You contacted my producers 3 months ago. You told them you needed help understanding something that happened before you were even old enough to remember it. Something that's affected your entire life. And you brought documentation. Is that right?" Rebecca nodded. Reached into her purse. Pulled out a folder. Manila. Worn at the edges. The kind of folder that's been opened and closed thousands of times. "Yes," she said quietly. "I brought my birth certificate. The original one. And the one that replaced it." Dr. Phil leaned forward slightly. "You have 2 birth certificates?" "Yes." "That's unusual." "It's more than unusual, Dr. Phil. It's illegal. And I only found out it existed 2 years ago when my mother died and I was going through her papers." The studio went quiet. Not the dramatic silence of a planned reveal. The organic silence of an audience sensing they're about to hear something significant. Dr. Phil's expression didn't change, but his focus sharpened. You could see it in his eyes. The shift from host to investigator. "May I see them?" Dr. Phil asked. Rebecca stood. Walked the folder over to him. Her hands were steady, but you could see her breathing had changed. Shallow. Controlled. She handed him the folder and walked back to her seat. Sat down. Wrapped her arms around herself. Dr. Phil opened the folder. Pulled out 2 documents. Both birth certificates. Both from the same hospital. Both listing a female child born on the same date in 1982. He looked at the first one. Then the second. Then back to the first. His jaw tightened slightly. "These are both yours?" he asked. "Yes." "But they have different information." "Yes." Dr. Phil set the documents on his desk. Looked directly at Rebecca. "Walk me through this. What am I looking at?" Rebecca took a breath. "The first certificate, the original one, lists my birth name as Rebecca Marie Thompson. Mother, Linda Thompson. Father, unknown. That's the one issued 3 days after I was born." Dr. Phil nodded. "And the second one?" "The second one was issued 6 months later. It lists my name as Rebecca Marie Wilson. Mother, Linda Wilson. Father, David Wilson. Same birth date. Same hospital. Same time. But different last name. Different father. Different mother's last name." Dr. Phil paused mid-sentence. The studio went completely silent. He picked up both certificates again. Examined them more closely. You could see his mind working. Processing. "Rebecca, birth certificates can be amended for legitimate reasons. Adoption. Name changes. Paternity establishment. Was this one of those situations?" Rebecca's voice was steady, but there was something underneath it. Something dark. "No, Dr. Phil. This wasn't legitimate. This was my mother erasing my biological father from my legal existence. And she did it without his knowledge or consent." The audience shifted. Murmurs. Dr. Phil held up his hand. Silence returned. "Tell me what happened," Dr. Phil said. Not a question. An invitation. Rebecca's hands gripped the armrests. My mother got pregnant when she was 19. The father, my biological father, was her boyfriend. His name was Marcus Thompson. They weren't married, but they were together, planning to get married after I was born. When I was born, she listed him as unknown on the birth certificate because they weren't married yet and she didn't want complications. They were going to fix it later. Dr. Phil was listening with complete attention. No interruption. No commentary. Just presence. 3 weeks after I was born, Rebecca continued, my biological father was killed in a car accident. He never got to hold me. Never got to sign any papers. Never got to legally establish paternity. And my mother. She fell apart. Completely. She couldn't handle being a single mother at 19 with a dead boyfriend and a newborn baby. Rebecca's voice cracked slightly, but she pushed through. 6 months later, she met David Wilson. He was older. Stable. Had a good job. And he wanted to marry her. Wanted to give us both a home. But he had one condition: he didn't want to raise another man's child. He wanted me to be his daughter. Legally. Completely. The camera operator was completely still. The audience had stopped moving. Dr. Phil's expression was unreadable, but his focus was absolute. So my mother went to the county clerk's office, Rebecca said, and she filed paperwork to amend my birth certificate. She claimed there had been an error. That she'd been married to David Wilson when I was born, and his name should have been listed as my father from the beginning. She forged documents. She lied. And because my biological father was dead and couldn't contest it, they issued a new birth certificate. Rebecca Marie Wilson, daughter of Linda and David Wilson. My biological father, Marcus Thompson, was erased. Legally. Officially. Like he never existed. Off camera, Dr. Phil made a choice no producer expected. He stood up. Not dramatically. Just stood. Walked over to where his producers sat off stage. The audience could hear him but not see him clearly. I need you to get our legal consultant on the phone. Now. And I need someone to pull up the laws regarding fraudulent birth certificate amendments in. He looked at Rebecca. What state were you born in? Ohio, Rebecca said quietly. Ohio. 1982. I want to know what the statute of limitations is. I want to know if this is still prosecutable. And I want to know what Rebecca's legal options are. He looked at his watch. We have 12 minutes before commercial. Make it happen. He walked back onto the stage. Sat down. Not in his usual chair. In the chair next to Rebecca. The guest chair. Eye level. Rebecca, he said, his voice quieter now, just for her. How did you find out? Rebecca's eyes were wet. My mother died 2 years ago. Cancer. Before she died, she told me there was a box in her closet. Said I should look at it after she was gone. That there were things I needed to know. I thought it was family photos. Letters. Normal stuff. She paused. Took a shaky breath. It was the original birth certificate. And a letter. From my mother. Explaining what she'd done. Explaining why. She said she was young and scared and desperate. She said David gave us a good life. That he raised me like I was his own. That she didn't think it mattered because Marcus was gone and couldn't be a father anyway. But it did matter, Dr. Phil said gently. It mattered because I had a right to know who my father was, Rebecca said, her voice breaking now. It mattered because Marcus Thompson had family. He had parents. He had a sister. People who would have wanted to know me. Who would have wanted to be part of my life. And they were robbed of that. Not by his death. By my mother's lie. Dr. Phil nodded slowly. Have you contacted them? Marcus's family? I tried. His parents are both deceased. But his sister, my biological aunt, is still alive. I found her on social media. I sent her a message. Told her who I was. Sent her a copy of the original birth certificate. What happened? Rebecca's face crumpled. She didn't believe me. She thought I was a scammer. She said her brother never had a child. She said if he did, the family would have known. She blocked me. I tried to reach out through other relatives. They all said the same thing. No one believes me because legally, according to the amended birth certificate, Marcus Thompson was never my father. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. The studio was completely silent. Even the crew had stopped moving. Dr. Phil sat back slightly. His expression was a mix of anger and sadness. Not at Rebecca. At the situation. At the cascade of lies and loss and legal manipulation that had stolen this woman's identity. Rebecca, he said, I'm going to be very direct with you. What your mother did was fraud. It was illegal. And depending on the statute of limitations, it might still be prosecutable. But more importantly, it was wrong. It robbed you of your identity. It robbed your biological father's family of knowing you. And it created a legal tangle that's going to require serious intervention to fix. Rebecca nodded. Tears streaming now. I know. But I don't know what to do. David Wilson, the man who raised me, he's still alive. He's 70 now. And he has no idea. He thinks I'm his biological daughter. My mother never told him the truth. If I pursue this legally, if I try to get my birth certificate corrected, he's going to find out that I'm not his. That his whole marriage was built on a lie. Dr. Phil was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he looked directly at the camera. We're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to have some answers. Because this isn't just about a piece of paper. This is about identity. This is about family. And this is about giving Rebecca the tools to reclaim what was taken from her. The cameras cut. But Dr. Phil didn't move. He stayed next to Rebecca. Spoke quietly. The audience couldn't hear, but they could see. Could see him being present. Being real. Not performing. Just witnessing. When the cameras came back, Dr. Phil was back in his seat. Composed. Professional. But something had shifted. Rebecca, he said. During the break, I spoke with our legal team. What your mother did in 1982 falls under document fraud. In Ohio, the statute of limitations for that type of fraud is 6 years from discovery. Which means legally, you're outside the window for criminal prosecution. However, and this is important, you do have the right to petition the court for a birth certificate correction based on newly discovered evidence. Rebecca's hands gripped the armrests. Hope flickering in her expression for the first time. It's not going to be easy. Dr. Phil continued. You're going to need DNA evidence proving Marcus Thompson was your biological father. You're going to need legal representation. And you're going to need to be prepared for the emotional fallout. Because correcting your birth certificate means legally acknowledging that David Wilson is not your biological father. And that's going to hurt him. I know, Rebecca whispered. But what happened next is something no one in the room, or watching at home, saw coming. From backstage, a producer walked onto the set. Unusual. Mid-show. He handed Dr. Phil a piece of paper. Dr. Phil read it. His eyebrows raised slightly. He looked at Rebecca. Then at the camera. Then back at Rebecca. Rebecca, he said slowly. During the commercial break, our team did some digging. Marcus Thompson's sister, your biological aunt, she's been trying to reach you. She saw a preview clip of this episode online. She wants to talk. Rebecca's hand flew to her mouth. What? She said she's sorry. She said seeing the birth certificate on screen made it real. And she wants to meet you. The studio erupted. Rebecca sobbed. Dr. Phil stood, pulled her up, and hugged her. Not for the cameras. Just because some moments require it. Your father's name was Marcus Thompson, Dr. Phil said quietly. And now his family knows you exist. That's where this starts. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. 6 months later, Rebecca's birth certificate was legally corrected. Marcus Thompson's name restored. And his sister became the aunt she'd always been meant to be. Identity reclaimed. Not through revenge. Through truth. Some documents lie. But DNA doesn't. And neither does love that survives 4 decades of erasure.